Hello friends, welcome back to another session of Core Java tutorials. In today's class, I'm going to discuss about layout managers. So before understanding the layout managers, let me actually talk about the containers. So there are two types of containers. One is the top level container and the other one is intermediate container. Top level containers will have their own title bar and close, minimize, maximize and restore buttons in the system menu. They are a rectangular window-like structure. Examples of the top level containers are JFrame, JApplet, JDialog, and JWindow. And so the intermediate containers are the one which cannot exist independently. They need to exist internal to a top level container. Such type of containers are nothing but JPanel. JPanel is an intermediate container. Okay, so each and every container will have a layout associated with it, and all the top level containers like JFrame, JApplet, JDialog, and JWindow, all this for all this the default layout is the border layout. Now, what is the purpose of the layout manager? The purpose of the layout manager is to determine the size and position of the components within a container. Components are nothing but button, checkbox, combo box, list, scroll bars, then radio buttons. All these are nothing but the components. So we place the components within a container, and how these need to be positioned inside the container, the layout manager will determine. Although components can provide size and alignment hints, a container layout manager has the final say on the size and position of the components within the container. Whenever the user resizes the component, the layout manager will actually position them according to the newly created dimensions of the container. So the layout manager will play the role of positioning the components in a container, and whenever the size is increased or reduced, they align the components accordingly in the container. So this is the purpose of the layout manager. Java provides several predefined layout managers such as java.awt.FlowLayout, and the other one is java.awt.BorderLayout, and the other one is java.awt.GridLayout, and java.awt.CardLayout, and javax.swing.BoxLayout. So these are the most commonly used layouts, and there are some other layouts as well, such as like group layout, scroll pan layout, and spring layout, and grid bag layout. So group, scroll, pane, and spring, all these three are in Java X.Swing package, and grid bag layout is there in AWT package. So let us get started. So I'll be discussing FlowLayout now. The FlowLayout is the default layout for the applet and the panel, and FlowLayout implements a simple layout style which is similar to how words flow in a text editor. So say for example, I'm trying to type something. Okay, so this is so as I keep typing the characters are aligning to the previous character, one after the other. Okay, so as I keep typing, so when I type P is appended to L and so on, and the text is aligned from left to right. Okay, so this is how the flow layout will be. So the flow layout implements a simple layout style which is similar to how words flow in a text editor. The direction of the layout is governed by the container's component orientation property, and which is by default it is left to right and top to bottom. Therefore, by default components are laid out line by line, beginning at the top upper left corner. In all cases, when a line is filled, layout advances to the next line. A small space is left between each component above and below also, and as well as in for left and right as well. Okay, so here I'm listing out some of the constructors of the flow layout. The constructors of the flow layout are flow layout, wherein it is not taking any arguments, and the second one will be taking into how. Okay, so what is this how? This how tells us about the alignment property. So there are 5 valid forms of the alignment property. Those are left, right, center, leading, and trailing. So what is meant by left? Okay, so when I pass the left in this particular flow layout, So what will happen? Flow layout dot left. So this value indicates that each row of components should be left justified. And the next one is flow layout dot right. So this value indicates that each row of components should be right justified. And the next one is flow layout dot center. So this value indicates that each row of the component should be centered. And the next one is leading, flow layout dot leading. So this value indicates that each row of components should be justified to the leading edge of the container's orientation. So say for example, the container's orientation is left to right, then this leading indicates that it is left. Of flow layout dot trailing. So this value indicates that each row of the components should be justified to the trailing edge of the container's orientation. For example, if the container's orientation is left to right, then trailing will be right. Okay. So these are the five valid alignment properties. Now let us look into some of the methods that you can apply on the flow layout. There are some of the methods. The first one is add layout component, get alignment, get align on baseline, get horizontal gap, H gap, get vertical gap, then layout container, then minimum layout size, preferred layout size. The next one is remove layout component, set alignment, set align on baseline, set horizontal gap, and then set vertical gap and toString. So these are all the methods that you can apply on the flow layout. Now let us look how you can create flow layout on a JFrame. Flow layout is there in AWT package. So first thing I did is I have imported the AWT package and I'm going to create a JFrame. To create a JFrame, I require Java X dot swing package. So I'm saying Java X dot swing dot star. So now I'm creating the class. So I said public class flow demo. So I'm taking name of the class as flow demo. And I'm saying extend to JFrame. So I have created a frame. Frame is a top level container. And then we'll be having public static void main. So inside the main method, I'll be, okay, so this is the main method. So inside the main methods, I'm calling the constructor of the class in the event dispatcher thread. So for that, I'm saying swing utilities. So swing utilities dot invoke later. So invoke later is a method which will create a separate thread, and on that the process will be launched. So I'll say new runnable. So I'm creating a thread. Okay. So new runnable, and so inside this I'm writing a public void run method. So this inside this run method, I'm making a call to the constructor. So what is the constructor? Which is new flow demo. So which is new flow demo. Right. Okay. So let me put a semicolon here. So now let me write the constructor. So the constructor is flow demo. This is the constructor. So let me actually set the visibility of the frame because by default it will be false. So I'm saying set the visible. Okay, so set visible and it is true. And let me set the dimensions of, so set size of the frame. So dimensions 300, 400. And also let me also set the default close operation. So set the default close operation. Okay, so what is the default close operation? Exit on close. So JFrame, it is a static constant. So I'm saying JFrame dot exit on close. Okay, so which is exit on close. So I have set the visibility of the JFrame to be true, and then I set the size of the JFrame, and also I have set the close operations to be this. Okay, so now let me create some buttons. So the buttons are, so J button. So J button. So let me create 5 buttons. Okay, J button B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. So I created 5 buttons over here. Okay, And I have created the references. Now let me create the buttons. B1 is equal to new J button. And let me give a name to the buttons. So this is button -1. So this is the first button. In the similar way, I'll be creating four more buttons. Okay, so it's the second button, third button, fourth button, and fifth button. And let me change the reference. So this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4, and this is 5. And let me change the name of the buttons also. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now that I have created the button, let me add the buttons to the frame. So I have to say add B1. In the same way, I also have to add B2. In the same way, add B3 as well onto the frame. Okay, so that's the container. So we are adding the components onto the container. So then I say add B5. Okay, so all the 5 buttons have been added onto the frame. So let me actually save this over here, and then we'll see what will be the output, and then I'll set the layout. Okay, so FlowDemo.java. So I have saved it on the desktop. Compile this program. So Java C FlowDemo.java. Okay, so there are no errors. Let me actually execute this program. So I'm saying Java Flow Demo. Okay, so you can see that this is the output, and so this is the output, this is the JFrame, but you can see that all the buttons have been put one above the other. Only you can see that button 5 is kept over here on top, but below it there are button 4, 3, 2, and 1, because by default the layout of your JFrame is the border layout. Okay, so since it follows the border layout, you didn't get the output in the flow layout manner. So now we have to change the layout of the JFrame. So let me actually do that. When I click on this close operation, the application will close. Okay, so let me once again come here and change the layout of your JFrame. So to change the layout of the JFrame, we have a method which is setLayout method. So the setLayout method will be taking a layout object, which is a reference to the desired layout manager. So you can also pass null. If you pass null, it means that you don't want any layout manager, and you will need to determine the shape and position of each and every component manually using the setBounds method, okay, which is defined in the component class. So I want the layout, but I want to change the layout. So I want to change the layout. So to do that, I'm saying set layout, and inside the set layout, I want the flow layout. So for that, I'm saying new flow layout, and you can give any of the constructors over here. So as I have shown you 3 constructors, one is the default one which won't take any arguments, and the other one is the one which will be taking how. Okay, so the left alignment and all that. So I'll show you this one after the other. So rather than making modifications into this same one, what I'll do is I'll actually create one flow layout. I'll create a reference, so which is F, and now I'll say F is equal to new flow layout, F is equal to new flow layout, and then I will pass this F as an argument into this layout. Okay, fine. Now the layout has been changed. Now the layout is the flow layout. Let me actually re-execute this. So let me compile it once again and execute this. So now you can see, okay, so now you're able to see that there are 5 components here, and the 5 components are kept on the frame. So let me actually maximize this, maximize the frame. So you can see the buttons are kept at the center, and they're kept as how I said, like the line words in the text editor are put one after the other. So the buttons are also put in a flow. Okay, but they are by default put in the center. One more observation that you need to make over here is that the horizontal gap between the components. There are 5 pixel or 5 units gap between each and every component here. So between button 1 and button 2, you can see there is a gap here, and this gap is 5 units. In the simple way, if there are components, say for example, I'm minimizing it. Okay, so if I minimize this, so say I have minimized this. When I have minimized this, you can see that the gap, vertical gap between this button and this button 4 is again 5 pixels. Okay, so you can actually change this in H gap and V gap. So this is regarding the flow layout, but you can see that it has put in the center. Say for example, I wanted to get the left alignment. So to get the left alignment, I can actually change, put the how over here. So which is flow layout dot left. Okay. So I have now changed the orientation. So let us see how the components are placed. So now you can see that the components are placed to the left side. Okay, so they're aligned onto the left side. So let me actually change it to the right. So I'm saying right. Okay, so when I say right, the components will be placed on the right side. So let me compile and show you this. So you can see the components are placed on the right side. Okay, so they're right aligned. The components are right aligned. So let me actually give leading. Okay. So when I say leading, it depends on the component's orientation. So the component orientation by default is left to right. It will be left orientation. Okay. So when I say leading, so I will get the left orientation. So when I execute this, you can see the components are placed on the components orientation. The components orientation is by default left, so it is placed on the left side. So when I say trail, it again depends on the components orientation. So if I said the components orientation by default is left to right, so it will be taking the right now. Okay, so now the orientation, you can see the orientation is now onto the right, because the is on the right because the components orientation is from left to right. Trailing means the last one, later one, which is right. Okay. So this is regarding the flow layout. Now let me show you how to create an applet, and the applet's default layout is flow layout. So you will be able to see that. Okay, so for that I need to import the packages. I'm saying import java.awt.star, and I need to create an applet. So I'm saying import java.applet.star. Okay, I also require HTML code to be written here. Okay, so this is my applet tag. So applet code is equal to, okay, applet flow. So I gave a name to the class, which is applet flow. Okay, and the name of the class is also applet flow. And I'm saying width is equal to 300, height is equal to 400. Okay, now I'm closing the applet tag. Okay, fine. And now I'll be creating the applet. So I said public class. What's the name of the program? Which is applet flow, which is extends applet. Okay, extends applet. So now inside the init method, public void, inside the init method, so I'll be creating a checkboxes over here. So I'm saying check box. Okay, so I want checkbox C1, C2, C3, C4. So I created references for the 4 checkboxes, and I require one string. So which is string MSG is equal to this one. Okay, so now inside the init method, I'll show you how to create the checkboxes. So C1 is equal to new checkbox. And there are certain constructors of the checkbox. I'm using one constructor which will take the title of it. So I'm giving a title to the checkbox, a label to the checkbox. I'm saying Apple, and then group. So this does not belong to any checkbox group. So I'm passing null, and I am giving the state. So there are two states for the checkbox. One is on and off. On means that there will be already a tick in the checkbox. Okay, off means there won't be any tick. Okay, so I want this apple to be checked. So I am giving true over here. So this is one of the constructor. So I'm creating one more checkbox. One more checkbox. So inside this, I'm simply giving the label. So here I'm saying mango. So in the same way, I'll be creating another checkbox. Okay, so this is C3, and in here I'm actually making it as grape. So I'll create one more checkbox. So this will be okay, watermelon. Okay, fine. So I have created 4 checkboxes. Now the point is I need to add these checkboxes to the applet. So let me add these checkboxes. So I'm going to add C1. So in the same way, I need to add the other checkboxes as well. Okay, 3 and 4. So this should be add C2, this C3, and this should be C4. Okay, so I added all the checkboxes to the applet. Okay, so this is a very basic program. So let me actually write my paint method. So public void paint. Okay, graphics G. Okay, I simply have written the paint method. I'll tell you the purpose of the paint method later. So first, let me actually save this. So I have saved this as applet flow. So let us compile the program. So Java save applet flow.java. Okay, let me launch it. So which is applet viewer, applet flow.java. Okay, so you can see that here I got the checklist. Okay, so in here I got the checkboxes, but since for Apple I have set the state to be true, I got already a tick over here. Okay, so if I maximize this, you can see that all the checkboxes have been put in the center of the flow layout. So if I want all of them to be left aligned, so I can use that in the flow layout. So I'll be doing that. So I have to say sector layout. So inside this, I have to say new flow layout, and then inside this, I should pass the static variable. So what is that static variable? Flow layout dot left. So I want all the components to be left aligned. So I'm saying flow layout dot left. When I save this, let me actually compile this and show you once again. So when I launch this, you can see that all the components are so you can see all the checkboxes are aligned onto the left side, right? Okay, so let us try to add some events to the checkboxes. So the event here is the item event. So in here, I'll say C1 dot add item listener, this. Okay, right. And in here, I need to say implements, okay, item listener. I need to register the listener with the applet. Okay, so in the same way, I'll be adding the item listener for the rest of the checkboxes as well. So I'll say this is C2, this is C3, and this is C4. So we have added listeners to item listener to all the checkboxes. So I need to implement one of the method in the item listener, which is item state changed. Okay, what is the method? So public void item state changed. Okay, and this will be taking the item event object. So this is item event object, which is I. Okay, so I just wanted to make the changes. So I'll simply call the repaint method. Okay. So whatever logic I'll write in the paint method. So in here I'll say MSG is equal to, so MSG is the string that we have taken, right? So MSG is the string that we have taken. So I'll make modifications into this MSG. So I'm saying MSG is equal to, so then current state, okay, let me put a colon. So I'm putting current state in MSG. Then I'll say G dot draw string. Okay, and I want to write it at the coordinates 60. Okay, so I'll put 6 comma 80. Okay, x is 6 is the x coordinate and 80 is the y coordinate. So I want to draw it there. So I'm saying MSG is equal to so I will say C1 dot, okay, so C1 dot get state. Okay, so this will give the state of it. Okay, fine. C1 dot get state, and then I'll use the same draw method to actually put it at some coordinates. So this will be 100. Okay, right. In the same way, I'll put one more method here. I'll put one more MSG here, wherein I'll say C2 dot get state. Okay, so C2 dot get state, and I will put it at the coordinates 6 120. Okay, so this should be at 120. In the same way, I will also get to the state of C3 and also C4. Okay, so this should be C3 and I will be putting at 140, and this should be C4 and I'm putting it at 160. Okay, add the listeners, I should be importing the event package. So which is import java.awt.event, because in here only all the event handling classes are there. So item listener is there in java.awt.event. So I didn't import it. So now we are all set. Okay, fine. So let me actually compile the program. Okay. So okay, so it is get state will return a boolean value. So what I'll do here is what is C1? C1 is apple, right? So I'll write apple. So apple state. So this will actually convert it into a string. So what is C2? C2 is mango. So mango, let me put a colon also and a plus. Okay, what is C3? C3 is grape, colon, and put a plus. Okay, and this is watermelon, and put a colon and then a plus. Okay, fine, that's it. So we converted that boolean into string by typecasting. Okay, fine. So let me compile this. Okay, now it is absolutely fine. So let us launch it in the applet. Okay, so this is the applet. So this is the applet. So you can see that the current states are displayed here. For apple, it is true. So get state will return the current state. Okay, so which is true. And for mango, it is false. And for grape, it is false. And for watermelon, it is false. Now just take an observation. So I will actually change the state of apple. and you can see it will reflect here in apple here. Okay, it is true, right? So when I actually uncheck it, you can see apple state now changed to false. Okay, so whenever there is an event occurred here, checking and unchecking, okay, so you can see that the event is handled here. So when I check this mango, you'll be able to find that this mango state will become true. So you can see the mango state has become true. And when I checked on grape, you can see it became true. And for watermelon, you can see it became true. When I uncheck grape, you can see it became false. Okay, so check boxes generate the item events, and you can handle them in this way. Okay, so this is regarding the flow layout. I hope this video is helpful to you. Thank you so much.